maybe there are some things that the PDP knows that we don't know. So this time, I haven't heard it from the APC side, and people had commented. We'll be hearing it from the PDP side, because our guest this morning is the publicity secretary of the PDP in Plateau State. But before we go there, here's this background package.
The supporters of the 16 sacked lawmakers are here protesting against the refusal to grant the embattled lawmakers access to the assembly premises. The sacked lawmakers at a briefing on Tuesday told journalists that the Supreme Court judgment that confirmed Governor Caleb Mutfwang as a duly elected governor of Plateau State also affirms their election and cancels the verdict of the Court of Appeal. The 8 lawmakers recognized in the state came early to resume official duty for the first time after their recess in November last year. The plenary lasted for a few minutes at the old government house, not the assembly complex. The speaker then addressed journalists on the latest developments.
As you can see, we have called up the recess, as you were duly adjourned, and we are back to resume the legislative duty officially today, being 23rd day of January, believing that God Almighty will take control to begin the new year. As I'm talking to you, there are 32 members claiming 16 vacancies in the assembly. And as I said, we as lawmakers, we are not law interpreters, so we allow the institution, that is the judiciary, to do the needful by interpreting the law. And at the right time, we know who are the rightful occupant of the 16 constituencies, and we'll do the rightful thing at the right time as an assembly. But for now, myself and the honorable colleagues, the duly members of the assembly, were 8 for now until determination of the court.
The 16 sacked lawmakers then arrived the area with their supporters. The supporters of the 16 lawmakers were not happy with the decision of security operatives to prevent access to the building.
This is the convoy of the 16 sacked PDP lawmakers here in just the Plateau State capital. They are here at the entrance of the government house. Security operatives are preventing them access to the floor at the moment.
The leader of the group also briefed journalists on their next line of action.
We agree absolutely with the position of the leadership of the Plateau State House of Assembly, and we abide by that.
The issue of the 16 sacked PDP lawmakers is still at the court of law, and the next line of action will be determined by the court. From Joshua, TVC News, Jos.
Okay, so there you have it. It's an old story by now, but there might be some that are just joining us, so we played it again anyhow. When we last when you talked about this, the situation over in Plateau, many people just couldn't see the reason for the PDP's assemblymen behaving as they did. Their case was already finished. There were no more assemblymen according to the judgment of the appeal court. That's the highest that they could go for that kind of a case. That's what the law says. But they showed up nevertheless. The speaker, as you saw, at that time was saying that, well, they do not interpret the laws. And so he was waiting for an interpretation of the situation and the laws. He said he had the judgment of 2 courts before him. I think he was referring to the Court of Appeal that had nullified the election of all the assemblymen and had replaced them with whoever came second. And that's how we have 16 of them were out, and 16 APC assemblymen were now in. But to their credit, the APC assemblymen didn't show on the day that the PDP men showed. Later on, when we were to speak with them, they said that it seemed to be the right thing to do, to wait for due process and for them to be invited. Okay, we'll get a bit more clarity, perhaps, because as I said, our guest is Mr. John Atkins. He's Publicity Secretary, PDP in Plateau State. A fine morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Okay, then. So this is the situation. Yes, this is the situation on the ground, and as I sort of paraphrased there, summarized, we have already looked at this subject matter, but from the APC point of view. Now, I guess you being the Publicity Secretary in Plateau State, there might be some additions that you want to make. Otherwise, what has been said so far is, why was the PDP allowing its members, that is the ex-assemblymen, to behave in that way? Why did they go as they did? Why did the 16 of them go to the House of Assembly? And that was going to, if other things had happened on that day, it might have caused a breach of the peace. So how say you, sir, in relation to the conduct of the PDP assemblymen that day in Plateau State?
Well, thank you so much. I think the position of the members of the People's Democratic Party who went to the premises of the House of Assembly was not to cause any chaos, or was not to cause any problem, but was just in fulfillment, in discharging their responsibility as members elected by the people. And don't forget that legitimacy of every governance or every government in a democracy, it is given by the people, not by the courts.
Okay, there's a bit of there's something of a problem with your audio. And by the way, let me just apologize to our viewers at the moment. You know you should be seeing Mr. John Akans. He's joining us remotely, but because that was not turning out so well, is why we are feeding the audio of him. But we will soon probably, as I'm sure we'll sort that out. But just for you to know why you haven't seen Mr. John Akans as introduced. We're trying to work around some problems. So that's that.
Thank you.
So please continue, sir.
Like I said earlier,
okay, while we're trying to, we're still working on that, but what you have said is that they were there in fulfillment, if I understood it, of their responsibility, having been elected by the people, and, you know, like that. But look, the courts have determined that that election was out of order, and consequently has made another order that everybody who came second in that election was indeed the winner of that election. So how could people who are knowledgeable enough to be assemblymen, how could they then still proceed, having known that the law had stripped them? After all, PDP, as most parties will say, are, you know, a law-abiding bunch. They believe in the court, in the supremacy of law. So when you now said that they have been elected by the people, you left out the part that the courts had neutralized that. If you can hear me, Mr. Akans, you might want to continue, sir.
I'm with you.
Yes, yes. So please comment.
Yeah, thank you. But don't forget that we have a judgment of the Supreme Court. The parties, we have the judgment of the Supreme Court, and we got that judgment in our favor.
As it relates to the governorship election.
The governorship election took place the same day with the State House of Assembly members. Was very clear, very explicit. The Supreme Court has it that in the first place, members of the APC that went to court, they lacked the local standing, would have taken their matter to court. And the Supreme Court says that the courts lacked jurisdiction to have entertained the matter in the first place. And from that moment, from that judgment, you know that those members were unjustly removed. They were illegally removed because of a certain interest.
I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to understand the reasoning, but These are two separate processes. In the
I'm coming.
Okay.
We had an election. The people with majority votes were declared.
The audio went again, but I do believe you were about to say that the people with the majority vote, something happened to them.
No. I'm coming. Don't forget that. When the injustice started, it started from the tribunal. Under the of Justice Tukur. And they nullified the election based on non-structural allegations. And when we discovered that something was fishy, as a party, we hurriedly immediately wrote a petition drawing the attention of the NJC to the fact that the judgment being delivered by Justice Tukur at the lower tribunal and is going against the Electoral Act 2022 signed by the President in 2022. That petition was submitted to the National Judicial Council. After that, we know that within the appeal started to dispense her judgment in line with the judgment of Justice Tukur. We have asked questions. How can you declare a political party without structure? Has anybody the Registered People's Democratic Party as a political party? The answer is no. And therefore, we know that we will not get justice right from the Court of Appeal because we know very well that something was wrong and interest was being played. Hence, our decision to write to petition the NJC.
Okay.
Which we did. And the judgment of Court of Appeal and all the grounds used by the tribunal to
please bear with us, viewers. You can understand what's happening. I had said earlier we're having a bit of a technical challenge with the audio. Mr. Akans is speaking, and he's making something of a case for the House of Assembly members in Plateau State who showed up even though they had been disqualified from the election. But so far, Mr. Akans has said that it is the view of the PDP that justice was not being served. Of course, I haven't heard him out, but you know, I had made the comment earlier that people are law-abiding. Political parties are law-abiding. I'm sure PDP is not going to take itself out of that. And so I might have asked if I was able to still continue to speak with Mr. Akans, is this not in the nature of self-help? He has told us that they have written to the Judicial Commission. I was going to ask, did they get a response? And if what the PDP did, if that was not in the nature of, you know, self-help. Did I hear that I have somebody in Abuja? Aka in Abuja. Mr. Abubakar in Abuja, good morning to you, sir. While we're having the technical problems.
I'm calling from PW Kubwa this morning. Uncle Yori, Happy New Year. This is the first time I'm speaking with you this
Compliments of the New Year to you too, sir.
Uncle Yori, a man of the caliber of the person for the PDP for Plateau State should not come on a national television with an international repute to tell us what the Supreme Court has not said about those legislators. There is whether the judgment were delivered in error or not, there is no any court order that vacated the verdict of that judgment by appeal court. But is here on national and international television telling us that the Supreme Court has decided on that matter. Which matter did the Supreme Court decide upon? Was it not the appeal of the governor that went to Supreme Court? Did the appeal of any legislator went to Supreme Court?
Exactly.
We have younger ones that are watching. Please, we should not be misguided.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the wonderful opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Atkins, I wonder if you wanted to comment on that. You are not saying, are you indeed saying, sorry, sir, are you indeed saying what Mr. Abubakar has alleged, that you are criticizing the judgment of the Supreme Court?
Nobody, I cannot criticize. I think you should listen to me very well. I say a judgment delivered, when a judgment delivered without jurisdiction, without lacking jurisdiction, that court, that judgment is null and void.
What? Explain that. I imagine you're referring to the Supreme Court. What jurisdiction do you say it lacked in treating the case of the governor who had appealed to it?
And what is the meaning of lacking jurisdiction? Lacking jurisdiction is a determining matter. And the Supreme Court has held it that no matter how beautiful the case is, once the court lacks jurisdiction, there is nothing the court can do.
If you are talking, sir, about reference was indeed made by one justice to matters of the internal affairs of the PDP. I have heard other lawyers comment since that that comment needn't even ever have come at all, simply because that was not the case before their lordships at the Supreme Court. But overall, the judgment in favor of the governor is what the assemblymen of the PDP now seem to be leaning on, in the sense that, look, it worked for the governor. You've just said that the election was conducted at the same time, same venues, and therefore some of that should rub off on them. Whereas their case had been finished entirely, done with, dusted, dried, cut and dried. They were no more assemblymen. Why would they now show up? Because the governor had got joy at the Supreme Court.
Thank you. You see, the position is very clear. It is unfortunate that their matter terminates at the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
But they were within the context of the law, they were illegally removed.
Yes.
They were illegally removed.
Did you say they were immediately removed or illegally removed?
Illegally removed.
No, you can't say that. If the court has pronounced something, it becomes legal. I mean, unless you can, pursue it and get a higher court to say it was illegal.
When you look at what is happening, when you look at what happened, you read what happened. What does the law say? The question is, is the law different? Does the law apply to Supreme Court differently than the one applied to appeal courts? It is the same law. And it is the same ground that the APC used to challenge the victory of the People's Democratic Party, elected members. It is the same ground that was used on the governor, the same ground that was used on the members of the State Assembly, on the same issue. And the Supreme Court has come up clearly to say, look, this was wrong. We are not saying no, that the law, the Court of Appeal decision does not matter. We're not saying no, but it was illegally done based on the judgment delivered by the Supreme Court. And what we are saying is the matter is subject to interpretation by the judiciary itself. There are two things now.
All right. Yep. I indeed have heard the case that you are making, but you also said inter alia there that, look, you agreed that the court processes for the assemblymen ended at the Court of Appeal. That's where it ended. You did say so, but you also have opinions as to where it ended up. Okay, let me bring in Sunny Adenuga. Mr. Sunny Adenuga is calling in from the UK. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. I can't hear you guys in the studio.
Well,
if you're hearing me,
okay. Can you hear me now?
Now,
I just put you on.
I think what I would say, I can sympathize, let me use that word, with PDP. But the gentleman the representative talking about this issue just needs to understand that democracy is the rule of law. The question I have for him is this: what instrument of the law does he think his party can use in this case? Because it's not just because any other thing like going to protest and all the rest, it's more like anarchy. And that's not what he said. He's not said anything different from what everybody, whichever side of the divide you are. So he should tell us something new. What does he know that we don't know in terms of, is there a particular instrument of the law he thinks he can use? Because election is a process, very clearly. Of course, coming back to the other part of the process is that even those of us who are players in this landscape of our politics, we tend to get confused about the process. We find some part of our electoral law in the Constitution, some in the Electoral Act, and everybody tends to get confused. I think it's high time the lawmakers need to bring all these laws together and stop causing confusion to the society. And I personally believe the Supreme Court judge who made reference in his judgment or her judgment, whoever delivered the judgment, who made reference to the case of the State House of Assembly, because that was not what they brought before that. And I think the Judicial Commission needs to pay attention to things like this and not cause confusion in the society. The judge shouldn't have talked about the case that was not brought before them. It should have been about the governorship's case and not cause confusion. Oh, sorry, PDP, it seems not work for you this time, but unless you have a particular instrument of the law that you can use, I don't know. And I think that's what we want to hear from you, if you have, so that you educate us better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonny. Mr. Sonny Adenuga calls in from the UK. He's chairman of Boot Party in Nigeria here. Okay, you heard that. I also made mention of the fact that there had been this, dare I say, unfortunate reference to the assemblyman's case, but that was not the case before the Supreme Court at all. And the point here that everybody is speaking about is that the law is the law. And the assemblyman cannot go, the assemblyman's election cannot go beyond the Court of Appeal. And so that has ended up at the last bus stop. And coming on now, unfortunately, it would seem that that position is like aided by the Speaker, who you heard, say, and you already know, he said that, well, I'm going to wait on interpretation. I don't know what interpretation, and that's where Mr. Sonny Adenuga called in just now, was saying, is there something else that you know, sir, Mr. Akans, that everybody else doesn't know? The law is the law, it's cut and dried. It might not always be pleasing, but it is the law.
Thank you. Thank you. You see, there is one thing that we should know clear. Once there is miscarriage of justice, there is bound for confusion to take place. And in the first place, we have to ask ourselves this question: why did Justice Tukuru started nullifying the elections of People's Democratic Party from the lower tribunal?
He gave the reasons. He gave the reasons. You might not agree with them, but he gave the reasons.
But the Supreme Court has voided that reasons. In the first place, he does not have
not in the case of the assemblyman.
They were presented to him. Our lawyers presented every evidence and fact before him. Once elections are held, from the moment INEC publish names of candidates, any litigation that will come thereafter, it becomes a pre-election matter. And this is our position. And all the litigation, all the grounds of the APC member were pre-election matters, which has been handled by the Federal High Court. They took us to Federal High Court in the first place. We went and defeated them there. And all it was about structure. And now he went ahead, notifying elections. And like I said earlier, when he started notifying elections, we discovered that something is wrong. We already wrote a petition to NJC. We draw the agency's attention to that. Now, this thing is going out of context, out of the provision of the Constitution.
I hear you.
Out of the provision of the 2022 Electoral Act.
I hear you.
And the agency listens to us. And it was on that process.
I hear you, sir.
From Plateau State, today, don't forget that, from the petition from Plateau State and other states, the agency has set up a committee to review conflicting judgment under Honorable Justice Onoge, a reputable retired CGN. We are waiting for the interpretation. We are waiting for the review of that.
I hear you, sir. Let me quickly bring in another viewer, Elder David in Alimosho. Thank you for waiting, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm still waiting.
Go ahead, please, Elder David.
Hello, sir.
Good morning, Elder David. Good morning, sir. Go ahead.
Good morning, Yorin.
We can hear you.
Good morning, sir.
Elder David, good morning. We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Why can't people give peace a chance? Why can't people give peace a chance? The enjoyment of the governor, what is he going to do with state assembly election? It's a question I'm asking. Yes. It happened in Zamfara State. Where APC lost the governorship 2019 with all the state of, does the word fall? These are enlightened Nigerians. Why are they creating problems for people, misleading people, the innocent one? They must know that there is a difference. The Court of Appeal, their own case ends there. What they are saying, the Court of Appeal, is that in the ward and local government, they didn't conduct what they call the pre-marriage day and others. They have nothing to do with the governorship own, that is of the state. What this man is saying there is wrong.
All right, Elder David.
You should be very careful.
Okay, sir.
What is happening in Plateau State, nobody is happy.
Okay.
Happy about it. Killing every day and here and others.
Well, thank you very much. You heard Elder. I'm wondering if I should go on a break now or not, because I don't want you to start and then have to interrupt you. Okay, so what we should do, hold on, I'll be right back to you, Mr. John Atkins, Publicity Secretary, PDP, Plateau State, to respond to that right after this break.
Sometimes it's the story that calls. At other times, the people just want to be heard.
School, I need students, but I need teachers.
Can't continue like this.
Their voices re-echoing through time itself.
We haven't done anything.
If the tide is high, everybody run for safety.
Their tears leave a sweet, sour taste for all their demands. A familiar call beckoning for change. In our world, no one expects a disaster to happen. But when it does, we'll be there to x-ray all sides, from the east to the west, north and south. Community Forum will examine the oddities and challenges to economic development, as well as issues yearning for government intervention. Watch fresh episodes of Community Forum on Sundays by 9:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
Okay, welcome back, and we're revisiting a subject matter that we've addressed already, but it was the APC members, party members, that were our guests then, and so this is the turn of the PDP representation in the person of Mr. John Atkins, Publicity Secretary, PDP in Plateau State, who has been speaking on the matter. But just before I go back to him, as I promised to, Mr. David has called in from Abuja. Go ahead, sir. David in Abuja. David in Abuja, can you hear us? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead. You're on now.
Okay. My question is, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my question is, if they are saying the Supreme Court judgment, the sacked lawmakers will not benefit from the Supreme Court judgment. Are you hearing me?
We can hear you.
Okay, if the sacked lawmakers will not benefit from the Supreme Court judgment, so are we now saying that in future elections, since the appeal court judgment is in respect to the sacked House of Assembly and the National Assembly lawmakers, are you now saying that in future elections, PDP will not present candidates for House of Assembly and National Assembly elections? Because from my understanding, the Supreme Court judgment has sealed as in every litigation about the PDP structure on the Plateau. And if that is the case, meaning any judgment from the appeal court is null and void. Because if we are saying that the appeal court judgment, the sacked lawmakers will not benefit from the Supreme Court judgment, meaning PDP will not present any candidate in future elections in terms of appeal, in terms of national and state assembly elections. That is the question. Because the bone of contention is that PDP does not have structure. And now the Supreme Court is saying PDP has structure. And if we are saying the lawmakers will not benefit from that Supreme Court judgment, meaning PDP will not present any candidate in national and state assembly.
I don't know if you are stating. I don't know if you are stating the case factually, or if you're a lawyer, because these are technical matters, or if Mr. Akans himself is a lawyer. Mr. Akans, that viewer has drawn some conclusions and made some observations.
Or if you're a lawyer, because we are technical matters, or if Mr. Akans himself is a lawyer. Mr. Akans, that viewer has drawn some conclusions and made some ideas.
Mr. Akan, you can't listen to yourself on your television. I beg your pardon. Please listen to, listen through your earphones or whatever. You can see. Oh, that was actually a call. That was Mr. David. Well, Mr. Akan, can you hear us? Mr. Akans, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yes.
Let me quickly respond to the other fellow that got a call on the issue of Zamfara. Zamfara case is a very different thing entirely from Plateau issue. Zamfara case was a clear violation of the electoral process by a political party. And in this case, the People's Democratic Party on the Plateau have followed duly the electoral process. We are a law-abiding political party. And don't forget that PDP is the most experienced political party, administratively and politically wise. So we know much how to follow the law. We have never violated the provision of the law. And in that case, what we are saying, the Supreme Court has clearly stated that no matter how beautiful the case is, once the court in that position lacked jurisdiction in a matter and went ahead and delivered a judgment, once the court lacked jurisdiction on that matter and the court still went ahead to deliver judgment, how do you look at that judgment?
Okay, but my difficulty here is you're talking about a lack of jurisdiction on the part of the Supreme Court. They certainly did have jurisdiction in determining the petition that the governor, the former governor at the time, had brought before it, and indeed was successful, and so he became the governor. From the governor to the former governor, and now at the behest of the Supreme Court, the governor. That is as, that is as should be, because it could be. He could appeal. A governorship election could go all the way to the Supreme Court, but not so with the other election. That's the point that is being made that has not been surmounted yet. Good morning, Mr. George. Thank you for holding on. Can you hear me, Mr. George?
Hello.
Good morning. Please go ahead now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, you're very frank here.
Okay.
Or if you can hear me, it's okay.
We can.
Okay, this is the first time I'm seeing lawmakers pretending not to know the law. The PDP representative that you are talking to said something that after the Court of Appeal pronounced the judgment, they didn't like it. They had to write to the Judicial Council. Is that the procedure? If you are not satisfied with a court that is the final point of appeal, so you have to write to the NJC and wait for the NJC to give another judgment. Is that what our Constitution says? Supreme Court is the final for governorship election. Court of Appeal is final point for legislative elections. You are not satisfied with the result of legislative elections. You wrote a petition to NJC that the judgment must be done in your favor before the judgment is effected. Supposing now that the Supreme Court says the governor is rightly elected, but the appeal court said he wasn't. Supposing the APC supporters in Plateau State also came out to say, no, we are not satisfied with the Supreme Court judgment about the governor. We are appealing, we are writing to the NJC to vent our disagreement before we can allow the governor to assume duty. What would this gentleman before you, what would he say? They should stop causing confusion in the country just for selfish interests. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in. Well, again, Mr. John Atkins, you heard that. A lot of people are not just coming from this program. It's like you, I think you were on a different, or somebody from your party was on a different television program days back. So
in this case,
yes.
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
In this case, from the caller, in this case, we are not causing confusion. It is the Court of Appeal that has caused confusion in this country. It is the Court of Appeal that has caused confusion in this country, not the People's Democratic Party. And in the first place, as an institution,
how?
As an individual,
how? But is it by that reference of that of her lordship, of that lordship, that female lordship who had referred to the case in the lower court? Is that what you are saying?
Excuse me, there are Pretoria cases. Pretoria of cases that stands very clear on electoral matters. There are pre-election matters, which the court will entertain. In this case, the tribunal will entertain. Pre-election matters cannot be entertained by tribunals. The law is very clear. And the appeal court went ahead to even entertain cases that they lack jurisdiction in that matter. And we are not causing confusion. It is the Court of Appeal that caused confusion in this matter we are in. Because it is a very clear, simple thing. And as an institution like the People's Democratic Party, and as an individual, I have the right, if I'm not satisfied with the process, if judgment is delivered outside the Constitution, I have the right to petition. I have the right to call on the attention of the Judicial Council. It is my right as a citizen, and it is our right as a party to do that, to call on the NJC, to look, this content, this judgment is completely out of context, out of the provision of the Constitution. It is to correct the ills within the system, which we did that. We did that within the context of the law. It is not outside the provision of the law. Writing a petition, it is not outside the provision of the law. And we did that. And then the NJC acknowledged the petition we wrote. And they are looking into it. It is to correct such injustice so that tomorrow will not repeat itself again.
But you haven't got. Well, you said. I beg your pardon, sir. I was just going to say, the last caller had made the point that if you're not happy with a decision of the Supreme Court, ordinarily, well, that is known to be the case, that, well, you're not happy, but the law is the law. Writing to the NJC as a result of your dissatisfaction with a finding and a decision of the Supreme Court is not the normal process. It's not the normal process. And in any case, I believe you've just said that you are waiting on them. You're waiting on the NJC to respond to you. I don't know if the NJC is going to respond, because this particular procedure that you have adopted I don't know. I'm not a lawyer myself. I don't know if it is known to law in that routine sort of a way where I don't like what the Supreme Court has decided. Oh yeah, the next step is write to the NJC and sit down and wait for a response. What if they don't
Let
respond?
me make this position clear. Please, let me make this position clear. We didn't write to the NJC after the judgment. We wrote to the NJC when we discovered that something was going wrong, right from the tribunal, lower tribunal, the trial tribunal.
Okay. It's an important clarification.
After the judgment has been delivered.
Okay.
We wrote to the judgment when they delivered first and second judgment, and we know that it was clearly out of the provision of the law.
Okay. So you had...
We know the attention of the NJC.
I see, sir. Thank you for the clarification. So you had approached the NJC. You had approached the NJC before the decision of the Supreme Court. It's an important clarification. But for your people, your party members, to now proceed to the to the State House of Assembly based on that, but to their credit, they did withdraw, and they said on television that yes, they thought it was a legal matter and that they would wait for, since the Speaker had said that he's waiting on interpretation. But quickly, let me bring in Mr. Ibrahim. Is that in Kaduna? Ibrahim in Kaduna? Did I get that right? Yes. Yes, okay. Mr. Ibrahim, can you hear us? Ibrahim in Kaduna, can you hear us? Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Uncle Yoru.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. I hope you can hear me very clean and clear.
Indeed we can. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Ibrahim comes from Kaduna. You see, good morning to you and good morning to your guests. One thing I want to sort out here is this, and it's a question. Please, your guest here, he said something tangible and we need to hold him responsible. Because why? Look, we all understand what the Constitution talk about, and we all also, although we are not a law professional or law luminary, but we read books and we understand the Constitution as well because we have it in our midst. Now, the Constitution says that this level of electoral officers should stop here, and the other level should go up there. And this is what the judge delivered. But for us to make mockery, I can say mockery of our judges or tell them one another, please, is not do what everybody do. We should not just to cause chaos and anarchy in this nation because this is the only country we have. It's ours. Look, we should understand everything that will bring about insecurity. Now, nobody is happening in what is happening in Plateau, State, in general, and other parts of the country, but we must be able to hold ourselves accountable. Everything has happened. Yes, we know that this is a pre-electoral matter, as we say. We all know it. But there are steps and processes to handle it. Please, we should just try to applaud our judges. And one thing I really want our judges and all our lawyers to understand is this. They should try to advise their clients to move forward ahead. Because why? When we continue going the way we are going, it's not going to be what we are. Let's not try to call ourselves and make ourselves a banana republic in the eyes of other nations. Finally, my advice here is this. Nigeria, we are getting it right, and we are going to get it right in future. We're going to continue to strengthen our nation, strengthen our judges, and indeed strengthen our political gladiators to understand what really electoral law is all about. Thank you very much for giving me the...
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. Okay, Mr. Akans, what exactly, and thank you, by the way, for that important clarification that no, you didn't approach the NJC following the decision of the Supreme Court in the governorship affair, that you had done so earlier. Now, why, a lot of people are asking, why the sacked House of Assembly members, that is to say, the appeal court having neutralized their victory, why they now approached the House of Assembly following the government's decision at the Supreme Court, is what people are referring to as trying to foment crisis. What would you be advising your people, those people to do? Because to their credit, I think it must be said, they did withdraw. The police were not about to allow them to enter anyway. But then they did the withdrawal, and the spokesperson had said that they were satisfied with the utterance of the speaker, that it was a matter for interpretation. They are satisfied with the way he had phrased things, and so they would withdraw for now. Don't you think, sir, that it's about time your party, the PDP, told those members of yours to just drop the entire issue? The matter has been decided upon. There's no connection whatsoever between the governor winning his case at the Supreme Court and a resuscitation of their own case that had already been completed at the Court of Appeal. Don't you think the PDP should be advising its people to, let sleeping dogs lie?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I think as a political party, we don't take laws into our hand. And of course, you cannot as well stop people that have been disfranchised or have been victims of miscarriage of justice to exercise their rights or to protest within the provision of the law. You cannot stop them. We are in a democracy. And what they went to the House of Assembly was not to cause any crisis or was not to force themselves into the chambers, but they went to register to the Speaker, to the leadership of the House, that yes, this is what happened was they were just victims of miscarriage of justice, and therefore that they are following the provision of the law, and they will soon approach. They've approached. They've approached even the court for interpretation of the two judgments, and therefore they still remain with the mandate of the people, and the Speaker should put to hold any planned either inauguration or documentation of those who were declared by the Court of Appeal. And what is happening, it is not to cause,
who also had the mandate of the people to come second.
They have the mandate of the people. Like I said earlier, you see, in a democracy such as what we are practicing, legitimacy of governance, of representation is given by the people in an election. And these 16 people of the People's Democratic Party are still holding the mandate of the majority of the people. They cannot just transfer the mandate to another political party who did not score the majority lawful votes.
On the contrary, sorry, sir. On the contrary, the court can do that. The court can do that and has done that. I'm sorry, sir.
The mandate given to them is for 4 years, and therefore they still hold the mandate of the people. And the other provision will be followed. Oh, there are windows. There are legal windows that our legal team are following to make sure that they reclaim back their mandate.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Claim back their mandate if there are processes for that. But
there are processes for that, which we have set the ball rolling.
Okay,
and therefore,
but you agree. You agree that the beneficiaries of the judgment at the appeal court, those beneficiaries also had the mandate of the people, albeit in the second position.
No, they don't have the mandate of the people. They have
do.
The mandate of the people.
That was not the court. That was the court looked at the mandate. Let me use your phraseology now. The mandate of the people who initially were thought to have won the election. Now, upon the finding of the appeal court, they say, well, this other mandate, the mandates, as given to those people who became second, was indeed what they were going to be working with. I understand that's not satisfactory, but you did say that you are working on processes to try and sort that out.
We will, but let it be on record that they were not there to cause problems. They were not there to cause confusion. They were simply there to present their position to the Speaker.
All right.
And which Speaker accepted their position.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Mr. John Atkins, for taking the time this morning to tell us your side, that is the PDP sides of the story, PDP in Plateau State. Our guest has been the Publicity Secretary, PDP in Plateau State, Mr. John Akans. Thank you very much, sir, for your time this morning. So that's our program. Indeed, please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folare. Do have a great weekend. Bye-bye for now.